Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe. Happy Friday to everybody out there. Um, Sometimes weekends, like the weeks are harder than others. I would say for me that this week was a pretty challenging week, coming off of a weekend where I had some setbacks and things that I had wanted to do. Um, thankful for the lessons that they taught, but definitely setbacks. So like when you have a week like that, sometimes it can be a really could be a really difficult weekend. Excuse me, it can be a really difficult week when you have a weekend like that. And fortunately, we're at a Friday and we get to kind of hit a reset button. At least, hopefully, you're in a position where you get to hit a reset button. I know that I am going to try to hit a reset button. But it always brings in the question of what we're supposed to be doing out here, like what our life entails and how should we be moving as opposed to how we are moving. Like, are we doing the things that we're supposed to do, or are we essentially living lies? Are we living lives that don't fit what we should be doing with our life? I feel like I have a very good understanding of what I should, not what I want always necessarily, but what I should be doing with my life. I feel like I I am stepping in my purpose. I teach, I coach, I disseminate information to people. These are things that I've always wanted to do. Like, I've always wanted to be an educator in some capacity. So as long as I'm educating in some way, I feel like I'm living in my purpose. But I've always loved writing. I've loved writing. I've loved everything about the writing process. And then I love the product that comes from writing. I love what being a journalist stands for. I love the way that we're able to give the information to people who would not have information if it wasn't for us. Like, I really do appreciate that stuff about being a journalist. And so it is not lost on me that these things exist. It's not lost on me that these opportunities that I've earned and that I've tried to take advantage of have come to me. But I can't sit here and lie to you and say that it's been equitable. I can't sit here and lie to you and say that I have been given the same opportunities to excel at a level or at a speed that my contemporaries have been able to. Now, that could be for one or multiple reasons. Um, for me in coaching, especially when it came to college coaching, I got priced out of college coaching. Like, I was taking, if anybody knows anything about coaching, unless you get lucky and you're at a Division I school, or you know somebody that was at a Division I school and you get an opportunity to start your career at the Division I level. Now, I don't mean like at the FCS level. I mean at the major, you know, FBS level of Division I. You're not going to make any money. You're not going to make enough money to like support yourself. So the college jobs that I held, they were all jobs that you could not do for a long period of time because you couldn't sustain the ability to live. One of the jobs that I had, I was working as a graduate assistant, and I was making somewhere around $4,000 to $5,000 for the year. That's less than I would have made if I'd have went and worked at a fast food restaurant. And I was putting in ridiculous amounts of hours. I would tell you how many hours a week it was, but I don't really know, honestly. There would be a time between Friday, excuse me, not Friday, but Saturday, when we cranked up everything for the game, through Monday, where I would pretty much be in the office all day, all night. Between, or not in the office, but working, between dealing with the game and preparation for the game. And I was the video coordinator as well. So I did the video, and then post game, getting all the video ready, the cut ups, Sundays, meetings, workouts, all of that jazz, then getting going on 10-hour trips to do film exchanges, because at that time you still did film exchanges by hand. You didn't just send somebody a digital copy. There would be a good 72 hours where I was just going before I got a break. That was the first 3 days of the week for me. Or the last 3 days of the week, if you want to say Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, because Monday is usually an off day for the kids or the players. I shouldn't even call them kids. But I was doing all that for $4,000 and $5,000 a year. I worked in the Student Success Center to try to make extra money. I was helping people write their papers. That's how I made extra money. That was how I got my teaching fix from the academic side. I wrote papers for the Urbana Daily Citizen, for the local newspaper. I made a little bit of extra money there, not much, just a few bucks here and there. But I made it work. And I made it work, but that wasn't sustainable. I couldn't do that for 4 and 5 and 6 years because I didn't have a support system at home that would have been able to pay my bills for 4, 5, 6 years until I broke through and got that job that I could afford to do it myself. So many of my other contemporaries had that. And so they were able to wait it out until coaches left and they ascended, or until coaches left and got a job and brought them with them, and they bopped up the ladder. Guys who I do not believe are better coaches than me got premier jobs, or jobs that everybody would want. Even some ascending as high as coordinators and head coaches at Division II, Division III NAIA programs, who I 100% flat out do not believe are better coaches than me. But they were able to do that because they had the ability to stick around. And so much of this coaching game is who you know, not what you know. But I couldn't do that. So I went the high school route because I taught and I made a legitimate living wage. I remember it specifically, right? I went from making $24,000 a year in my second year of teaching to then $32,000 a year in my third year of teaching, because I was teacher and I was the head coach at this private school. That didn't work out for a myriad of reasons. I was 26 years old. Probably should not have been the head coach, but also they didn't want to there was no real desire for them to allow me to grow in a position. That's when I went to college. I realized I wanted to be in college at that point in time. At least I thought. And so that's when I went to college. And luckily, I had money that I had saved for my first 3 years of teaching to kind of buoy me for the couple of years that I was at college. And then I moved on to another and didn't have money in college. And then I said, I'm going back. That first year that I was back in teaching, I made 38. I made $38,000 after making $4,000 in a year. I made $34,000 more than I made the year before taxes, obviously. How was I going back to $12,000 a year jobs or $18,000 a year jobs? How was I going to go and be a restricted earnings coach for $16,000 with no benefits? How was I going to go and take a low-level assistant job for $24,000 a year, no benefits, no housing in New York City? Like, the opportunities that were afforded to me, I either could not accept because I could not make it work financially. There was no significant other. Or I didn't get because somebody knew someone else and they needed a place to land after it didn't work out wherever they were. These were all stories that I remember. And through perseverance, like, I got to a good place in life. I make way more than $38,000, I can tell you that much. But as life increases and things increases, you don't really feel the difference the way you would think you feel the difference when you double your salary because of whatever reason. But the opportunities never left me that I wasn't able to take advantage of those opportunities, and I did not move up ladders as fast. Even in coaching, in high school coaching, where I saw people who were lesser than get jobs, get opportunities, to be head coaches, stay at those positions for longer amounts of time. And I just sit and went like, man, like, what is up? But again, patience, perseverance, put your head down and endure. That's my superpower. I have the power to endure. And so I did. And I've had some setbacks. I've had some run-ins and things where it didn't work out the way that I want to, but I'm still here. I can tell the exact same stories about journalism, having to take jobs that you don't make a lot of money at. Any journalist out there that's listening right now, any writer, they can all tell you, they can all attest to you. You're taking jobs where they're asking you to do a lot of work for little to no money. Even today in this society where we have a billion new different media avenues that you can go down. A lot of them don't make money enough for you to have a living wage. I write for 2 different publications right now. Neither one of them pay me enough to where I could do that and that alone. Not even close. Not even close. Yet those entities generate millions upon millions of dollars as a whole, right? But they do it in the aggregate. There's so many people writing for so many different tentacles that the money that they're making has to then get dispersed amongst all of those people. So there's just not a lot of money in it. Not until you ascend to a certain level. But it's hard to get to that certain level. Why do I tell you all this? Why do I spend 15 minutes talking about my journey? Number one, because it's my show and that's what I do. I talk about me, talk about life. This is what it is. But another reason is because Rodney Terry, the head basketball coach, the interim, head basketball coach at Texas, has not been named the head coach at Texas yet. If you don't remember what happened at Texas, let me refresh your memory. Texas had another coach this year, Chris Beard. Chris Beard was a guy who everybody was on. Like everybody was on him, but he was fired. And why was he fired? Because he had a domestic violence charge against him. They tried to see if they could sweep it under the rug. They tried to see if it would die down, but I think Texas realized, no, this just isn't going to work. We got to get him out of here. It's a bad look, right? Is he an awful person? Who knows? Did he do an awful thing? Absolutely. Can't be out there beating on your fiance. Sorry. It's just not how the world works. And I'm happy for that. Like, you shouldn't be out there putting your hands on anyone. Like, if we all just kept our hands to ourselves, lives would be a lot easier. But amongst all of this carnage that was left, which was Texas all of a sudden not being able to, play. They went from being a dominant team to we're just losing left and right. Rodney Terry stood in the fire, was able to hit a reset button and get this Texas team firing on all cylinders again. He was able to get them ascending. Now, if any other, because I get accused of making things racy, so I'm going to try not to make it racy. I'm lying. I'm going to make it racy. If Rodney Terry's name was a name that had a light-skinned face with it, we would not be having a conversation about Rodney Terry being the head basketball coach at Texas. Rodney Terry comes with a resume that says he's qualified to be the head coach at Texas. Rodney Terry, for those who don't know, got his head coaching job start at Fresno State. That's where he broke through as a head coach, and compiled a 126 and 108 record in 6 years at Fresno State. When he left Fresno State had 3 consecutive 20-plus win seasons. When was the last time you heard about Fresno State's basketball team? He was last there in 2017, 2018. Have you heard about him since? He left Fresno State, whom he built into a conference contender, to go to UTEP. That's a step back. You know what that tells me? He wants to be in Texas. That tells me he wants to be in Texas. So he goes to UTEP, and in the 3 years, I want to say that he's at UTEP, by the time that he leaves UTEP, there are 20 win team, So now he gets UTEP to a level where they're ready to go. By the way, he's the same guy who took a pay cut in order to help UTEP while they were going through the COVID stuff. Took a $200,000 pay cut, but he left UTEP. He resigned that at a really weird time, but he left for other opportunities. He ended up at Texas. Well, why does he have to go to Texas from UTEP? Because he wants a bigger job, and he realizes that the Fresno State to UTEP to whatever is probably not going to get him where he needs to go. So he becomes an assistant coach for Texas. That is not a guy who was just an assistant coach and rode the coattails of the head coach to a job. That's a guy who earned it. That's a guy who should be in this position, and yet he's not. And why is he not? Who knows? But I know that if Chris Beard was his assistant and he was the head coach at Texas and he got into a domestic violence issue and was fired, and then Chris Beard took over and had them on the brink of the Final Four, had them in the Sweet 16, a good chance to advance to the Final Four, he would have that job. We have seen other coaches at lesser programs get high-level jobs for doing less than what Rodney Terry has done at two other of his spots. We've seen people go from St. Peter's to a Power 5 job. We've seen people go from Iona to a Power 5 job. We've seen people go from name another, Belmont to a Power 5 job, Murray State to a Power 5 job. He went from Fresno State to UTEP to an assistant coach at Texas, all while having success. And now he's taken over a Texas team that he knows in an area that he knows well. They're having success, and you don't just take the interim tag off. He's gotta earn it still. How, Sway? I don't want to make it racy, but it doesn't look good. It's a bad look. And until we start pointing out these bad looks on a routine basis, nothing's going to get better about it. Nothing's going to improve. We can't just keep putting our head in the sand and acting as if this stuff does not happen. It's happening. It continues to happen. And it's a shame. I don't want Rodney Terry to leave and take a Penn State job, or I want him to be in Texas. You know why? Because Rodney Terry wants to be in Texas. Because I'm tired of us getting what they give to us. I want us to get what we're owed. I want us to get what we have earned. Rodney Terry has earned that. And we need to make sure that he receives it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. We do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree. But whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Till next time, peace.